Awesome. Dean, congratulations on the film.
Thanks very much.
There's so many things that we can talk about, but doing a little Google of you this morning, I have to ask you this question. How much did your work on the glorious cartoon of the 80s, being a child of the 80s, the Raccoons, set you up for doing How to Train Your Dragon?
It's so bizarre to me when the Raccoons come up, because it felt like, to me, it was my first job. I was drawing in-betweens for animators. Literally my first job in animation, and I was happy to be doing it, but I had no idea that cartoon traveled. And to some people, it's significant. Like Jay Baruchel, he was most impressed with that. He forget Lilo and Stitch and Mulan and everything else I'd worked on. He's like, you worked on the Raccoons. I love that it continues to live on in some strange way. But yeah, for me, it was really just learning the ropes.
My era of, when I was a kid, that was on all the time in the UK, especially. I mean, it was just all over the place. In terms of transitioning into the live action from the animated one that you did, I can imagine there was lots of toing and froing in your brain as to, do we need to do this? Is this the right thing to do? Versus, oh my God, this would be amazing. What was the straw that broke the camel's back to you to say, actually, yes, I think we can do this?
To me, it was twofold. Universal approached me with this idea. We're kicking the tires on this and wondering if a live-action remake would be a good idea. And my initial instinct was, I do not want to see someone else's version of this. I'm really protective of it, and I want to make sure that the heart and the soul remains intact. So if you're going to do it, I volunteer as steward, as tribute, because I'd seen too many live-action, or I'd seen enough live-action remakes that lost the heart and soul of it, and I just didn't want to see it happen. Then I called John Powell, and I said, talk me out of this if you think it's a bad idea. And he articulated what I'd been thinking, which is, if we do it right and we do it with love and respect, this could be a nostalgic hug to those existing fans, and it could open it up to a whole swath of people who might not have seen the animated movie or been born since. And so there's a way of doing this that actually preserves what's best about it, but is additive in all of the ways that live action could give us, but also extra screen time and attention to mythology and deeper relationships, and that got me excited. And so I thought, okay, let's do this right as best we can.
Did that make it almost, I say harder for you, because you were so ingrained in the series, and it was kind of your baby in some respects from the beginning, going into live action, having to kind of go against your own instincts of, would this work, would this not work, kind of the translation into doing it live action?
Well, we had leaned so heavily into a live action aesthetic on the animated movies. That's why we brought in Roger Deakins, and we really wanted it to feel like a dangerous world. And you could get burned, you could fall from a height, you would die. You're not going to bounce. This is not a cartoon world. And as much as we tried to infuse that aesthetic into animation, there were still aspects of it that felt ultimately, cartoony. And so we could translate that, we could give it a bit more maturity, and we could really lean into this idea that there's a cameraman trying to follow Hiccup and Toothless through the sky, and he can't keep up with them. And we're constantly dealing with focus shifts and wind blowing at us, and just make it really feel intense. But also, and probably the biggest education for me, was when you hand a scene over to actors that are fully embodying their roles, there's an alchemy that happens. There's a magic that happens between the cadence and the scene development that you as the director must give over to. And that's very different from animation, because we're so used to cutting up lines and making our perfect takes and then handing it to an animator. And it's all about control. And the live action side of it is you prep and you prep and you prep, and then you give it over and sit back and try to pivot toward the natural happy accidents that are happening.
As a final question, I mean, it must have been a joy for you to see it kind of come, quote unquote, come to life, because I know you used puppets to try and give the actors an eye line. What was that experience like, particularly with Toothless, having him in some respects come to life, because you're so used to him being in the kind of the 2D space or 3D space in some respects, but now seeing him come to life. I mean, for you, that must have taken you back in that moment for the first time.
It's wonderful. We worked with Framestore to develop the designs of the dragons, and then we handed those designs over to a company here in London called Stitches and Glue, and they created foam bodies and heads. In Toothless' case, with articulated ears and mouth. And then we brought in these puppeteers, led by Tom Wilton, who are masters. They've done stage productions like War Horse and Life of Pi, and so they infuse so much personality that that all of a sudden the dragon appears. It's in front of you. It's on the set. It's interacting with the actors and drawing really truthful performances out of them by being the dragon, by every little subtlety and hesitation and curiosity. And so not only is the cameraman able to film for what will eventually be a CGI dragon, and the editor can cut it together, but you actually have real interaction, real scene partners. And that was mind-blowing to me.
Amazing. Well, I really love the movie. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so
Nice to
much.
meet
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey you guys!
Hey, you guys!